If you go deep enough, you can see the mob's fingerprints on everything. James Riddle Hoffa was last seen in the summer of 1975 in the parking lot of a restaurant in the suburbs of Detroit. Under Hoffa, the International Brotherhood of Teamsters, a union that organized truckers, became one of the most powerful unions in the country. They also had a cozy relationship with organized crime. Union heavyweights mysteriously grew rich, and they loaned millions from the Central States Pension Fund to invest in mafia casinos in Las Vegas.
Despite the charges against Hoffa, which included getting rich on union funds, the Teamsters elected him president.
Attorney General Robert F. Kennedy pursued Jimmy Hoffa relentlessly.
You can't remember 3 months ago whether Johnny Deere was in your room? The man who's under indictment for throwing acid in Victor Rizal's eyes?
I cannot remember whether he was or not, as I just don't recall.
You can't remember what you talked about, and you can't remember whether he was in your room?
Wouldn't have been of anything of any importance, Mr. Kennedy, and I can't recall it.
In 1964, Hoffa was convicted of attempted bribery and fraud. He went to jail hating Bobby Kennedy and feeling betrayed by the mob and brother Teamsters.
The trial that was held in Chattanooga was a farce.
Hoffa got 13 years, but served less than 5.
Jimmy Hoffa's wife, Jo, waits for her husband. It's the day before Christmas, 1971, and President Nixon has commuted Jimmy's 13-year sentence.
"Tell the rats to get off the ship," he said, "because I'm coming back." Something the mob did not want.
My father, James R. Hoffa, has been missing for some 32 hours. He left for an appointment at Max's Red Fox restaurant at approximately 1:30 p.m. Wednesday, July 30, 1975. He called home at approximately 2:15 p.m. We have not heard from him since.
He thought he was having lunch with Anthony Giacalone, a mob boss from Detroit. The lunch never happened, and Jimmy Hoffa disappeared forever. Elections have been bought and sold since the beginning of our country. The political machine in Chicago has often been influential, able to deliver big votes to Democrats. Many have imagined shady connections between the Kennedys and the mob, as JFK's father, Joseph Kennedy, was involved in the distribution of alcohol during Prohibition. On the eve of the razor-close presidential election of 1960, Chicago Mayor Richard Daley declared that Kennedy would carry the city with the help of a few close friends.
Richard M. Nixon was the choice of the Republican Party. He had served as Vice President of the United States. As the polls close in the eastern states, it becomes obvious that this is going to be a close election. In Illinois, the voting will be so close that the lead will go back and forth from one
if this trend does continue and he does become our next president, that he will have my wholehearted support.
We may never know what really happened in Chicago in 1960, but some attribute Kennedy's presidential victory, the closest of the 20th century, to Chicago's political machine and its association with the underworld. President Kennedy and the CIA both faced tremendous pressure to do something about Fidel Castro, leader of the only communist government in the Western Hemisphere.
I have today been informed by Chairman Khrushchev that all of the IL-28 bombers now in Cuba will be withdrawn in 30 days. He also agreed that these planes can be observed and carried.
The mob also wanted Castro gone. The Cuban dictator had kicked them out of Havana, where they had invested millions of dollars.
We had a thief in there who stole $300 million. The Republic was governed by a group of gangsters.
The two interests aligned in the person of Robert Mayhew, who had contacts in the CIA and to organized crime. A plan was hatched, part of a larger project called Operation Mongoose, in which Mayhew enlisted the help of Chicago outfit members Johnny Roselli and Sam Giancana. They were to assassinate Fidel Castro. Castro's head of security later estimated that there were 638 separate assassination attempts on El Comandante's life. One of the most speculative areas of all is the mob's involvement in the assassination of JFK. There is no proof, but we know there was desire. While Attorney General Bobby Kennedy was leading an unprecedented crusade against organized crime, the president was having an affair with Judith Campbell, who would later become involved with Chicago mob boss Sam Giancana. Could there have been a connection between Lee Harvey Oswald, mobsters around the country feeling betrayed and hunted, and a president in Dallas?
If you're going to say that there was a conspiracy involving the assassination and it was mob-related, you have to connect up Lee Harvey Oswald to the mob. Can you do that? The answer is yes. Turns out a man named David Ferry knew Lee Harvey Oswald from a Civil Aeronautics patrol, and David Ferry was one of the private investigators working for Carlos Marcello. You have a direct link between the head of the mob in New Orleans, Carlos Marcello, and the shooter, the president, Lee Harvey Oswald. Lee Harvey Oswald had a surrogate father, a man named Dutz Moret. Who was Dutz? He is a bookmaker for Carlos Marcello. I'm seeing pieces in a puzzle that are connecting. Before you put the last piece in, the picture comes in view, sometimes short of the last piece going in. Ruby kills Oswald. I'm sure of that. That was either two successive nut jobs, or the second was related to the first. Who is Jack Ruby? Jack Ruby is a wannabe in the mob. There are mobsters in Dallas at this time, man named Savello. Ruby is a friend of him. The police department in Dallas is corrupt at this time. They're taking money from Jack Ruby. He's running a strip joint. There's substantial evidence to believe that Ruby was stalking Oswald. One night it was announced Oswald was going to be presented to the press. Ruby was there, and Ruby admits he had a gun at that time. So you have him next to or getting next to Oswald on several occasions. And then finally you have that day, and he gets a phone call. And right after the phone call, he went into the bathroom and threw up. But that's probably where they said to him, Jack, we want you to take out Oswald. Could the mob do it and keep it a secret? Well, they killed Oswald, and Ruby died. Carlos Marcello used to have a sign on his desk that said something to this effect. Two people can keep a secret if one's dead.
It appears as though something has happened in the motorcade group.
So we shall never know how different the world might have been had fate permitted this blazing talent to live and labor longer at man's unfinished agenda for peace and progress for all.